All right. Thumbnail says Jim Harbaugh in Michigan is in trouble. I said Jim Harbaugh in Michigan, not Michigan and Jim Harbaugh. Just let me clarify that. I think they're after Harbaugh. I've been that guy on that side of the fence where people come after the coach, not the university, because of what the coach is doing. I know you're a Michigan fan. I know you looked into these bylaws and NCAA guidelines. I can't wait to have this discussion. I know you're here for a quick minute. Break down the legalities of this possible witch hunt, which I'm going to call it a witch hunt. Matt Sims, the son of Phil Sims, was on earlier, and he says there's smoke, there's fire, and he's had this happen before, and blah, blah, blah. So I kind of disagree with Matt because I've been here and done that. If you're in the huddle stealing shit from the other team, that's one thing. I think that's cheating. If you're doing what everyone else is doing, in my opinion, you're coaching. So I want to be clear. There's a difference. I don't believe he's out there in your huddle stealing shit. So where are we at with this whole guideline? And I want to be clear, Michelle, I know I'm rambling. The guidelines were changed with Joe Paterno. I know for a fact when they say basically the head coach is now knowing of anything that is assumed to be true or untrue. The head coach has to take full accountability of the program. So I don't know if Jim can just say this Marine or whoever they're saying is the one doing it. I don't think he can just say, I didn't know. So that's the one issue I think he's going to face. Break it down and tell us all the other issues.
Yeah, it seems like that right now is Harbaugh's posture based on his last statement, right? Where he's like, I had no knowledge of this. I wouldn't condone it. And I think, frankly, as you said, this is about NCAA versus Jim Harbaugh. And I think him trying to remove himself and extract himself from it is probably smart. But, the bylaws, as you said, they don't actually prohibit sign stealing. I think that's a common misconception. You can steal signs. You just can't acquire those signs at an in-person scouting situation, right?
My buddy, not to cut you off, my buddy is a D1 coach. He sent me a thing. There's a little snippet in the guidelines that mention specifically communications. So if they were to electronically take something communicatively, like a headset, or if they tapped into a communication, that is in the bylaws. What you're saying, stealing signs is not.
Right. Correct. That's right. If you just, look and you see one of those posters and you determine that Britney Spears means they're going to run this defense, that's fine, right? Unless you acquire that information by being there in person, which is, I think, what Michigan is alleged to have done vis-a-vis this guy, who, by the way, I think it's worth noting, I read, a volunteer through 2022. And I think after looking at the bylaws, there's a little bit of ambiguity as to what constitutes a person. So, for example, if I just went to an Ohio State game and watched all the Ohio State play calls and deciphered the signs, Michigan's not responsible for what the vast majority of people in the world do, right? Other points of the bylaw, two of the exceptions in particular, say that it's institutional staff, which I interpret to mean paid employees. And if this guy was a volunteer, you might just have someone doing this stuff, but if it's not impacting the program, if it's not actually resulting in any advantage, in my view, it doesn't compromise the integrity of the game, which is what the NCAA purports to be after, and what the Big Ten purports to be after is something that would compromise the game, right? And you can steal all the signs you want. If they don't make it to the play callers, the players, does it matter? So I don't know. I mean, there's the NCAA, if it wants to actually establish that the integrity of the game has been compromised, it's going to need to show an entire chain of custody, so to speak, right? It's going to need to show that, first of all, Michigan directed the behavior of this person, that this person constitutes someone who would fall within the guidelines, right? Maybe they're a staffer, maybe they're not. Are they volunteer? How does that matter? Then that this person who was or was not maybe acting at the direction of the program took that information and communicated it to people for whom it could actually make a difference in a game setting, right? So there are just so many links, in my view, that need to be established for this to ever get to the level of, a level 1 violation, which is something that goes to the integrity of the game.
So real quick, let me ask you this, then, Michelle. So do you think like the rest of the season will probably go on and play out with nothing actually happening, or is it a possibility that there could be some like suspensions and stuff like that prior to the season being ending?
So I think it's extremely unlikely that anything would happen this season to impact 2023, unless you're talking about a penalty down the line that would retroactively invalidate a win for this season. But like in terms of this season, I don't think the NCAA can do anything in terms of imposing a penalty to mess it up. My bigger concern right now is that this is, first of all, distraction for the coaches and players. And second, the timing is terrible and that it comes right in the middle of Harbaugh renegotiating a contract. And we know that Harbaugh is annoyed with all of the facets of college football that make coaching college football really hard, right? Constantly re-recruiting your players because of NIL and the transfer portal, having to deal with the NCAA and these, getting in trouble for buying a kid a hamburger, like shit like that just doesn't happen in the NFL. Harbaugh is one of the few coaches qualified to go back to the NFL and really coach there meaningfully. And that's why he flirts with the NFL every year. And something like this is going to cause Jim Harbaugh to say, like, what am I doing? Like continuing to play by these foolish rules with these people who are out to get me. My fear is that this really prompts Harbaugh to leave Michigan for the NFL finally.
JB might be the prophet, y'all. I gotta give it to him. I didn't want to give it to him, but after so many of things he say comes to fruition, at some point he might be the prophet. Now,